Your website has one primary goal, and that is to help you sell more software. Today, I'm going to walk you through 4 guidelines to make this happen. Number 1, find your value proposition. Number 2, the user is the hero. Number 3, get their hands on the product. And number 4, embrace testing and experimentation. How you come up with a communication strategy in a website that can help you sell your software? Well, that depends on a couple of things. Sales strategy, which can be low touch, mid touch, or high touch, and the target market you're going after, which is SMBs and mid-market and enterprise. The combination of these 2 factors will give you a certain set of parameters to know how you can communicate the value of the software and the type of website that you need. So whom you should communicate with. On the right side of the spectrum, selling to enterprise, you're going to be selling to buyers. On the left side of the spectrum, selling to SMBs, likely you're going to be selling directly to the users. What does it take to sell your product? Well, it depends on the complexity. More complex products will need sales reps involved. Simpler products can go completely touchless. The goal of your website then, as you approach the upper right hand of this chart, high touch selling to enterprise, the goal of your site is going to be to generate MQLs for sales to follow up with. And on the lower end, low touch selling to SMBs, likely your website's role is going to be to generate product qualified leads and sign up users. So the ultimate conversion goal of your site, selling to enterprise high touch, likely you're going to want buyers to engage in a demo request, a proof of concept, or an assessment. And low touch selling to SMBs, likely you're going to want the user to engage in a free trial or freemium. So how companies can make websites that convert? Number 1, we said, is find your value proposition. So there's 3 formulas that you can try to find an effective value proposition and see. The first formula is what it is. Say what it is. This example is specifically from Intercom. Simple personal messaging for businesses and their customers. What it does is the second formula. Here, the example goes, have live conversations and send targeted messages to website visitors and users of your app. What you can do with it. It's a new and better way to acquire, engage, and retain customers. This is what it allows you to do. So it's the more inspirational formula. Other elements of a killer value proposition is targeted. So clearly articulate who your solution is for. Specific, it can apply to, if it can apply to someone else, it's not specific enough. And then it's going to be unique. So it's going to set you apart from your competitors. Some of the things you're going to discover through research are things like, why are customers buy from you? What problem were your prospective users trying to solve? How did they realize they had a problem? Which competitors did they consider? What was the trigger that made them look for a solution, et cetera, right? But I mean, you have to ask open-ended questions so you get the rich language. So how do you collect this feedback? Well, you can run surveys. You can pick up the phone and talk to some customers. Sometimes a combination of these things. You can make it part of your onboarding. So as soon as you sign up, you can ask some questions and put that in a workflow. You can run polls on the website. You can ask questions at specific points in their life cycles, and then look at user behaviors on the site and inside the app. And number 2 then is the user is the hero. Speak to users, not to buyers. This is not talk about ROI. This is not about the strategic reason why you should acquire this. It's just how can this tool, your tool, can help the user do his job better and easier. The other thing you can do is to make it tangible. The key thing is that you have to make the gap evident, and you have to make sure it resonates. So the old way, when the user is looking at this and is okay, yes, this is how my life is today. And the new way, well, you have to paint the vision of heaven. And it has to be very credible and very clear and easy to grasp. Another thing to consider is that you have to speak as a trusted friend. Why this works? I mean, there's a couple of embedded things that they must know about their customers here. That is very interesting. So assumption number 1 that hopefully was validated, is that the customer wants to create branded emails. Number 2 is that they want to look like a pro. So who they're targeting, people that actually want to get recognized for the quality of their work. So very interesting, very well studied if it's based on evidence, right? Show different use cases, another critical thing. If your application has specific use cases for different teams in the organization, different types of users, or solves different problems, you have to make sure you have content to address those. Regarding your content, you have to make sure it's truly helpful. And following a product-led growth strategy, even content is part of that journey of discovery, right? And they offer this piece of content that is even ungated, okay? They don't put a barricade in front of it because they want to keep the focus on getting the users to sign up for a free trial. That's the only focus of their site. The other thing is that you have to structure the story coherently. And a great place to do this is on the homepage. And you see these long scrolling pages, but it shouldn't be left to common sense or opinions, what to put on the site, because then the story doesn't flow. The website homepage, it's going to be likely a long scrolling page, and you have to make a story flow structured in a logical way. This is a good way to do it, a good and tested way. It's not the only formula, but I'm going to walk you through one that has worked. So at the top, you have an overall value proposition. Then you contrast the before and after, so you can easily grasp what the tool can do for you. Explain the problem that you solve, and then introduce a solution and give them some highlights. Close with a call to action and some additional educational content. And within the page, you want to sprinkle some social proof to make sure that the user knows that your tool actually works and can do the job. Number 3 is get their hands on the product. Everything else is secondary. So your ultimate conversion point is a demo, most likely a trial or a freemium. Here's some formulas you can try for these conversion points. Number 1 is use social proof. Another formula is to recap on the benefits. The third formula is just get started, right? Not much elaboration, just a brief introductory paragraph and some help text. Number 4 is inline sign up. So if you have enough motivation, this kind of trigger actually can work. Here, you don't even have to go to a separate page. You just enter your email and get started. And the fifth formula here is just plain vanilla. It's just a variant of number 3. But here just basically just put the form and that's it. I already sold you. You're already here. You already read everything we said. I don't have to sell you on it again. Just go for it. So how do you get their hands on the product? Is kill friction points. There's a few things that are very important to keep in mind. Design, user flow, navigation, and then just show the product principle. What is beauty website-wise? One is prototypicality, or how typical a website looks, and then visual complexity, or how cluttered or busy it looks. Prototypicality, it has to do with following conventions that users are already familiar with. So you have to follow conventions like the menus at the top, always show the active area where you're in. Search can be found at the top right. The value prop is the first thing that you can read on the page. The request a demo button or ultimate conversion point. And of course, the company and identity on the top left. So let's talk about visual complexity now. The point is that simpler is, in the eyes of your users, scientifically speaking, more beautiful. Actually, white space works really well because it highlights the area that you want your focus on. Navigation is another critical thing to consider. Typically, what you see is that the more items are in navigation, the lower the conversions, just because it's just a lot more to do mentally for the user that is coming to the site to say, okay, limit actions. If you can limit your primary call to action to just one, that's the absolute best. And then concise language. Don't go into long run sentences. Just use simple words. Make it crisp, short, and snappy. Next thing to avoid friction points is think user flows. And the user flows, think about it as a series of steps that you want the user to follow once they land on your site. And to do this, you have to keep the user focused on the next step always. So towards the bottom of the page, in this case, MailChimp has 2 types of next steps. One is to learn more about certain things they know the buyer wants to know. And then the start for free call to action. Next point is STP principle, or show the product. And the point is to get the user to get a feel for your product. How to structure a software tour page. You start with a core value proposition of that function area. Then some aspirational benefits or things that you can do. Then go into details of how actually you deliver that solution. How actually the software solves that problem. Social proof, to make sure that the user knows that he's not the first one, it has worked for others. And then suggested next steps. So the 4th guideline is testing and experimentation as a culture. So you may have a good design or a good approach right now, and keep improving onto that. You're going to reach a local maxima, if you would. Then somebody comes up with a completely different idea. So you come up with that great next idea, but then you have to iterate several versions until you actually reach the optimal solution. And the point is that there's always something that you can try and then iterate on that. So things that you should always be monitoring and testing is your homepage value proposition, demo, trial, freemium sign-up points, and calls to action to sign up, homepage flow, product tour, pricing page, landing pages which have a lot of traffic, and then email subject lines and body text. So a typical approach that you cannot afford to do is just to have a shiny new site and then wait periods of 2 to 5 years to come up with the next redesign, and nothing happens in between to the website. What's going to happen is that you're going to create these huge valleys of underperformance because everything has been changing and now your website is obsolete. So the best way to do it is actually to make small iterations, small improvements to always keep up with new functionality you're launching, new markets you're addressing, changing customer needs, competition landscape. You react to that continually. So, okay, here's a recap of what we saw today. Get your value proposition right. Put your customers at the center. If you don't know how your customer speaks, then ask them and get some feedback. Your content's purpose is to help your users do their job. Focus on getting the user's hands on the product. Eliminate friction points that impede number 4. And embrace testing and experimentation as a culture. Oh, and continually monitor your site performance. Very, very important.